Okay, let's unpack this deep dive. We have a powerful stack of sources here that that really challenge one of the most ingrained assumptions of modern professional life.
They absolutely do.
We're talking about leadership,
Yeah.
but reframed entirely. What is real consequential leadership? Isn't a status you achieve or some ladder you climb.
Right. But a spiritual calling you're meant to steward right here, right now.
Exactly.
And that is the core tension we're diving into. It's fascinating because if you look at high-impact individuals, not just historically, but even today,
Yeah.
the sources argue that lasting influence so often comes from people who never chased the spotlight. They never held the highest formal rank.
They became leaders because they were responding to something.
They were responding to a clear calling, not because they finally got the corner office.
So our mission today is pretty clear then.
Hmm.
We need to understand exactly how faith, our daily responsibilities, and our skills, how they all converge to create that lasting impact. We're going deep into the source material to prove this idea that titles can amplify influence, but they cannot create it.
Exactly. And we can start by contrasting two, fundamentally opposed views of how influence is even built.
And the contrast is huge. On one side, you've got the conventional view, the one society just drills into us.
The outside-in approach.
Right. We're told to build the impressive credentials, secure the title, get the budget, and then, maybe then, we can afford to think about integrity or character.
It's all about external validation first.
Mm-hmm.
And that outside-in pressure is where what the sources call the learner's tension really comes into play. We see so many capable, values-driven people.
The ones who could be truly influential.
Yes. And they're stuck in hesitation. They're just waiting for the perfect moment, the promotion, the official job title.
Or permission from someone else before they believe they're authorized to make an impact.
Exactly. They feel like leadership is something to be granted, not something they might already possess.
And that waiting period can last for years.
Yeah.
For decades even. It just sidelines so much talent. But the sources, they point to a scriptural reversal.
Yeah.
They call it the inside-out pattern.
It's a complete flip. The sources argue that the framework we're given begins with formation. It's identity before activity, calling before competence.
And faithfulness before fruitfulness.
Right. In this unique framework, influence doesn't wait for ideal circumstances or a fancy title. It begins the moment you align your obedience with your action.
I love that distinction.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't about position, it's about response. But let's be real for a second.
Mm-hmm.
In the corporate world, in the nonprofit world, titles do matter. They unlock budgets. They open doors to high-level meetings. They lend credibility.
Sure.
So is it really practical to say that a lack of recognition is a good thing?
That's a critical question. And the sources don't say titles are irrelevant. They say they're insufficient. And they address that feeling of limitation, the lack of a title or recognition head on. They argue that this period isn't a liability. It's the training ground for lasting impact.
A training ground.
Yeah. It's where your authenticity is forged without the pressure of a spotlight.
That takes us right into this idea of formation before commission. The sources call it the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to address that quiet question we all wake up with sometimes. Does my life actually matter? How can I build influence that lasts beyond just this job?
Precisely. We often look for that public success, but the divine pattern consistently shows that the preparation is almost always hidden. It doesn't start by elevating people publicly.
It starts by forming them privately.
Right.
And the examples are, they're incredibly long-term. Let's start with Moses. He spends 40 years as an Egyptian prince. He's getting this sophisticated knowledge of management and statecraft.
And then he has to endure another 40 years, tending sheep in the middle of nowhere.
In Midian's wilderness.
Think about that span of time. 80 years before his public ministry even began. The palace gave him skills, sure, but the desert years, those were formative.
That's where he learned humility, patience.
All the things necessary to lead a very difficult and constantly complaining nation. The desert stripped away the arrogance of the palace.
And replaced it with a quiet resilience.
Exactly.
That idea that the invisible time is what builds the necessary character.
Mm-hmm.
It's so contrary to our culture of, I need success right now.
Mm-hmm.
Look at David.
Mm-hmm.
He gets anointed as a future king when he's just a boy, but then what happens? He goes right back to obscurity, back to watching sheep.
And his famous moment, taking on Goliath, that wasn't some sudden burst of bravery.
Yeah.
The sources really emphasize it was rooted in private faithfulness. Before he had the audience of the whole army, David had to privately guard his flock from lions and bears.
So his courage, his reliance on a higher power, his skill with his slingshot, all of it was cultivated when no one was watching. And then there's the ultimate example, Jesus, which just seals the argument. The Gospels are almost entirely silent about the first 30 years of his life.
Right, we always rush to the 3 years of public ministry.
But the sources point out that before any of that, he just lived a life of ordinary obedience, working, growing, submitting, waiting. It's the ultimate validation of that hidden life.
So for you, if you're feeling stuck in a role that feels too small, or you're waiting for a promotion to finally feel relevant, the core insight here is that the sources reframe that entire feeling, that sense of being inefficient or invisible. It's not a waiting room where nothing important is happening.
The workshop.
It's a workshop. It's where the real tools of lasting influence, character, resilience, integrity are forged. Leadership is formed privately, long before it's ever showcased publicly.
Which makes the next section, authority without rank, just a logical extension.
Yeah.
If character is the product of that workshop,
Then that quality should be portable.
it should travel with you, right? No matter what circumstance you find yourself in.
Exactly. And this is all rooted in that inversion of power that Jesus taught. He just completely dismantled the hierarchy we usually chase.
Right.
His measure of true greatness isn't status, it's service. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. The whole power dynamic is flipped on its head.
That flips our idea of ownership, too. At the heart of this whole biblical model is stewardship, which means you're managing what's been entrusted to you.
Yeah.
Your time, your relationships, your influence, but you don't actually own any of it.
And that completely reframes success. We strive for impressiveness, but the commendation for the faithful servants in Matthew 25 isn't, well done, you high-achieving leader.
No, it's well done, good and faithful servant.
Faithfulness, consistency, and integrity. That's the measure, not just the visible success or the size of your portfolio.
So let's look at how that portable influence actually plays out in some of the historical examples from the sources. Take Joseph. He goes from being a favored son to a slave, then to a prisoner. By any metric, he lost all external authority and rank.
But he didn't lose his internal authority. The sources highlight that Joseph exercised integrity and diligence, whether he was running Potiphar's household or managing the prison.
His leadership, his wisdom, it traveled with him. It elevated him from the pit to the palace.
Why? Because that authority was anchored in his character, not his job description. He was leading every single day, even from inside a cell.
And the same principle applies to Esther. I mean, she was a queen, but she was deeply limited by the politics of the time.
She had no official authority to intervene in a political crisis.
None. Yet she exercised this strategic moral influence. Facing a threat of genocide, she risked everything. She said, if I perish, I perish.
Her authority was relational. It was based on courage, not her position. She leveraged the influence she had, not the influence she wished she had.
That is portable authority in action.
Yeah.
And then there's Nehemiah. He wasn't a general or a king. He was a civil servant, the cupbearer to the king of Persia.
Essentially a high-ranking project manager who galvanized an entire community. The sources emphasize that his influence wasn't tied to his office.
Yeah.
It was tied to his clarity of purpose, his exceptional organization, his moral authority, and his constant reliance on prayer. He showed that even in a support role, vision and integrity can launch massive change.
So the key takeaway here is just, it's undeniable. Influence is portable. It travels with character, with integrity, with daily obedience.
It transcends organizational structure, rank, or circumstance.
You can take it anywhere because it comes from the inside.
And now we get to the part that really matters for you, the listener. If this is an intentional way of living, this rising without rank, how do we translate that calling into tangible daily action? We need structure.
We absolutely do. The sources outline 3 indispensable tools. They're designed to bridge that gap between abstract faith and real-life action.
To give structure to that inside-out approach.
Exactly. The first one is the personal leadership covenant.
This is foundational. A covenant is, well, it's essentially an inner commitment that defines who you are when no one is watching.
It's an agreement you make with yourself and your God about the standards you will hold to. It functions like an internal compass. Let's say for a professional, your covenant includes a commitment to prioritize people over production in a crisis.
Okay.
When the pressure mounts and you have to decide whether to mislead a client or cut corners to meet a deadline, that covenant transforms the situation. It's no longer a stressful negotiation.
It becomes an automatic, anchored decision based on that pre-commitment you made.
Right. It anchors integrity under pressure when there's no applause, no policy manual, and no one is watching.
The second tool is the leadership mission statement. Most organizations have one, but this is a personal declaration of why you lead at all, regardless of the job you have today.
This statement acts like a filter. An opportunity comes along, a new job, a project. You run it through your mission statement. Does this choice advance my ultimate purpose?
If not, it's a distraction, no matter how prestigious it looks. This clarity just sharpens your priorities. It ensures your influence flows from deliberate purpose, not just impulse or what other people expect of you.
And finally, to make sure none of this stays theoretical, the sources offer the 90-day calling action plan.
The practical roadmap.
It is. It's a realistic framework that's rooted in your current context, the job you have today, the relationships you are managing today.
This plan turns that broad purpose into tangible, bite-sized directions you can walk out right now. So instead of waiting for a future title to start mentoring somebody, your 90-day plan might include identify 3 junior colleagues who need guidance and commit to meeting with them once a month for coffee.
Using the skills you already have.
Exactly. This is leadership today, without permission. It's about taking deliberate, time-bound steps that are achievable right where you are.
And this intentionality is so necessary because leadership isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. Which leads us to our final section, the enduring measure, legacy and perseverance. In this context, legacy is completely reimagined. It's not a byproduct of fame. It's the natural outgrowth of faithful obedience over time.
It's not measured by your net worth at retirement.
No, it's measured by the lives you touched, the character you cultivated, and the faithfulness you leave behind.
And to sustain that decades-long marathon, the sources highlight 3 essential elements for endurance. The first is hope.
And this is not just passive optimism, that vague belief that things will eventually work out.
Right. It's defined as an active reliance. That's what sustains leaders through all the unseen effort and the delayed victories.
We all have those seasons where it feels like we're planting seeds in concrete. The sources remind us to hold on, relying on a future certainty, trusting that we will reap a harvest if we don't give up.
The second is courage. And this isn't the absence of fear. It's the daily choice to obey, even when the outcomes are uncertain or scary.
Like Esther's risk-taking. She wasn't fearless. She was just obedient in the face of immense personal cost.
And finally, faithfulness. This is maybe the most practical one. It's just consistency in small responsibilities.
If you're diligent about returning that difficult phone call, if you honor a meeting you'd rather skip, if you're consistent in your private disciplines.
Those small things accumulate spiritual weight. Jesus made it clear. Those who are faithful in the little things will be faithful in much larger things.
So the way you handle your current budget, the respect you show to the cleaning staff, the integrity with which you manage a minor project.
That's the training. That is the C-suite training, 15 years before you ever get there.
So when leadership flows from this deep internal obedience and character, the influence you have will absolutely outlast any applause or any title.
And it means the ultimate measure of significance isn't success as the world defines it, but alignment, a life surrendered to a genuine purpose.
When we prioritize character over visibility, we unlock that paradox.
The kingdom paradox. The less we grasp for power and prestige, the more quiet moral authority our lives naturally carry. Because influence is entrusted through faithful stewardship.
We've covered a massive, radical shift today. That leadership begins with your internal identity, your character, your obedience. Not with a title or visibility or external validation.
The periods we think are wasted are actually our most crucial workshop. They're what make our influence portable.
And remember, influence isn't claimed.
It is entrusted, and it's already available to you.
Which leaves us with something powerful for you to consider, drawn straight from the heart of the source material. Something to think about this week. What might truly change, personally, professionally, even eternally, if you stopped waiting for permission, affirmation, or a future role and began walking fully in the calling and capacity you already possess today?